What's going on, everyone? Austin John Plays here, and today I'm going to be going over some helpful tips and some key information on house building in Pokopia. I'm doing a complete and thorough playthrough slash walkthrough slash daily experience here on my channel, but I also wanted to do this as like a separate standalone video to help you out. When it comes to housing Pokemon, you have essentially two-ish, three-ish different options. One of them is prefabbed houses. During the tutorial, you built a leaf den, which is the most basic of these. The alternative to that is going to be building your own modular houses. I'm going to cover the dens and prefabs in a separate video with the pros and cons of that. In this video, I'm going to be talking about individual modular housing. Something's in the bush. Oh, it's Venusaur. Okay. 8 flowers in a bunch, the same way you get Vespiquen, that's how you can get Venusaur. Thanks to using the favorite menu, this video is going to be spoiler free. As a basis of building houses and environments, you only need the things you see on screen here. Every house or prefab requires 3 pieces of furniture to be down, and you can knock out a significant amount of every single Pokemon's request by just having 3 basic items strategically chosen. One of them is something of relaxation. The straw bed is large and it looks very nice, and you can see Pokemon sleep on it, but it takes up a 2x2 space. The log chair and the straw stool only take up a 1x1 space. You may think the straw stool is better because it uses leaves and not small logs, but eventually you're going to need your leaves for things later, so I would recommend a log chair. But then again, the straw bed just generally looks better. And of course, if you want to use a different 1x1 chair, bench, bed, whatever you want to do, that's fine too. I chose these items because you can craft them from the beginning of the game until the end of the game, and they're very cheap to make. The second item is going to be a toy, and there are 2 great choices for this, one being the toy blocks that only takes 1 lumber, and the other being a sandbox that takes 1 lumber and 1 beach sand, and beach sand is essentially free throughout the entire game. I prefer the sandbox because they're going to make a little sand castle of Palisand, or the other one. I think it's adorable, and that's the reason I choose the sandbox. Then you need a decoration, and I really like the vine wall decoration. It takes 1 leaf and 1 rope, and you make 10 of them when you do it. All you need is 1 inside of a house for it to be considered a decoration. Alternatively, if you want something a little bit more substantial, you can make a wreath. And then lastly, you need a door. There's the large wooden door that you buy from the Wasteland House prefab set. And then there's also the rustic door that you get a recipe from very early in the game. Both of them take 2 lumber. These items will meet the criteria and exceed for many Pokemon everything that is needed. Now, of course, if you want to build better houses with better items and you want your Pokemon to have max ratings, you're going to need a lot more things, but this will get a majority of them up higher. And even if you plan on building big, beautiful houses and environments for your Pokemon, these items will do very well for temporary housing until you can put them with their evolutions or whatever sort of small communities that you want to build with your Pokemon. And then besides those items, all you're going to need is some building blocks and a ditto flag if you want it to be your house. What does the game see to be a house? The easiest way for you to create a house would be for the game to see that you created a square or rectangle with filled-in corners. If I lay down dirt in a 4x4 pattern with a 2x2 interior and I put a door here, this is a house. This is 100% considered to be a house by the game. It is perfectly suffice, and it will house 4 Pokemon, even if all 4 Pokemon can't tangibly fit in here at the same time. Then, if you go ahead and you put down a stool, and a sandbox, and a decor, that secondary whoosh now means that it is now inhabitable. If you put 4 Pokemon assigned to this house, they are going to be ecstatic. They're going to be very happy. Unless they prefer dark environments, in which case they want a roof, pile up a little bit of roof, just like this, and now that will suffice for any Pokemon who wants a dark environment. And you're done. That is a perfectly viable house. It's not going to be very aesthetically pleasing. They're going to be constantly hopping in and out. It's going to be a mess. But it also has a huge advantage that if you put a house next to it, those Pokemon can benefit from items that you put in here. So if I just grab whatever random Pokemon, like Charizard here. Charizard, do you want to move into this beautiful house? Seriously? I'll definitely live here. I'm sure, bud. Heck yeah. Thanks, Charizard. Inside of inhabited house, if you press in the right stick, you now see the perimeter of the house's engagement. So everything within this square, that Pokemon and all the inhabitants will benefit from. If I were to put down a nice environment over here with washers and dryers, refrigerators, and nice beds and chairs and trading areas, the Pokemon who reside in this house will benefit from that. And if you want to know the maximum size of a house, I believe it's 100 blocks. Anytime that you go more than 10 blocks interior size, so 12 blocks full perimeter size by 12 blocks, the game has trouble making that an environment. So any more than 10 blocks of an interior in any one direction, and the game won't make it a viable home. Also, anytime that you start cutting corners and angling things, the game also has some difficulty. If you stick with rectangles that are less than 10 long, you're in luck and you're going to be much better off that way. There's a significant disadvantage to making modular homes, and that's if you happen to accidentally break or move any single item, like say for example you pull this door away, the house is now invalid and all the Pokemon assigned to it are no longer assigned, they are now all homeless, just like San Francisco. You could take this concept and be even more frugal about it if you really want to. You could just come on over to some pre-existing rock in the side of a mountain, dig out your 2x2, put down a door, boom, house. It doesn't get much more efficient temporary housing than that, does it? Put down your 3 items. It's now considered inhabitable. Charizard, do you want to live here? That? Definitely I'll live there. I'm sure, bud. Go for it. Thanks. He was following me too closely. Think of that as your temporary housing, right? That's just going to be a little 2x2. The Pokemon are good to be there. And most importantly, the number one reason you'd want to set up temporary housing is so that the spawn environment, if there are more Pokemon who can spawn there in that town, those Pokemon now have the opportunity to because the Pokemon are not residing there. Using that basic concept of architecture, we could follow what humans have been doing in urban environments for a long time. Condensed housing. You can either do apartment buildings or, much more likely, row houses. And you can even make it look good. Let's grab some cobblestone as a base and lay down the same exact 4x4 foundation. I'm gonna go ahead and put down 2 aesthetic bricks. I'm gonna put down 2 stairs. And now we're gonna get to a much nicer block like these brick walls over here. I'm gonna leave a little open space, that way I can come in and out freely. And I'm gonna go ahead and set up an identical one next to it. The only difference is I'm only bringing this one out 3 wide because this is actually gonna be sharing that wall. By following that exact concept and building these frugal homes, now it doesn't look that bad of a row home. And of course, if you want to make it 3 wide or 4 wide and have room for windows or decorations, it's going to look even better. And then, of course, a roof. You can make a flat roof or the much more pain in the butt sloped roofs, which I'm not the biggest fan of working with while you're playing the game, but once you're in the end game, yes, they are very nice to work with. I decided I wanted to expand on the length of it for a reason that's going to be self-evident later. By the way, pro tip while building, if you use the ZL function, you can use the D-pad to change the height of the block, and from the ground, from any camera angle, you can reach 3 up. When you tilt the camera down, you can reach, I believe it's 5, maybe even 6 up. Instead of cobblestone flooring, I was going to bring in some wooden floors to help break it up. So maintaining the stone stairs outside. Of course, every house has to have a door, but there are much nicer doors if you want to use those later on. And by going ahead and putting down some roofs that look nice, I probably definitely need to swap out those 2 wooden panels so that they blend in with the roof pattern a little bit more. But this is a row home, a perfectly acceptable row home. You even have a little window at the back because for some reason windows are locked to like the very end of the game. Now you also have a room for a larger bed. You could put down a 2x2, of course a sandbox. and a decoration on the wall, and boom, perfectly inhabitable house. This nice structure that took me about 3 minutes to put together follows all of the same core principles as this little hidey hole. So you can elevate the very simple design into something much nicer. So that is a house, and the other half of this tutorial is regarding outdoor environments. And outdoor environments, I'm basically talking about gardens and garden adjacent things. Knowing the rules of what is considered a house, you can just come on over here and put down this little wooden fence, right? Nice little wooden fence. So now think of this as the garden of that house. And with some very basic wooden fencing, I'm just going to put this down next to that door over there. I'm going to follow an 8x8, and I'm going to be using that foundation of that building over there to count as that wall. This is now a perfectly inhabitable house. So if you have, say for example, a grass type Pokemon who's a big fan of photosynthesis, you can have them out here and they are going to be ecstatic. And they will also benefit from anything inside of the house as well. So if you want to decorate that up with nicer things, Pokemon who reside within here will benefit from it. Now let's talk about a very neat thing that makes this garden environment even more efficient and the house is called nesting. So if I were to take leafage, and if I were to make a 4x4 right here, this is now a tall grass habitat inside of this empty house. So with this selection of Pokemon over here, Espeon likes bright environments, so because of that, Espeon wants to stay outside, or a very well illuminated house. I'm gonna go ahead and assign Espeon to this empty house right here. Yes, I'm quite sure. Charmander likes warm environments, so either outdoors with lots of fire but also still a roof in case it rains, or an housed indoor area, so he's going to be in this house. Ivysaur, being a plant, loves being outside. And him being a grass type, in my mind, it makes a lot of sense for him to go ahead and live in this tall grass. And then Parasect, I don't care about, I just grabbed him as well, because I can put down another and assign Parasect to that 2x2 grass. So Parasect lives here in this grass, Ivysaur lives here, and Espeon lives in the greater house as a total. You could even make this nesting even more efficient if you go ahead and you put down, say for example, a 2x2 of flowers. So now this pretty flower bed is breaking up this patch of grass and this patch of grass. If this was a smaller piece of furniture, you could fit 8 habitats inside of a house that fits 4 habitats. So in this 8x8 space, you can comfortably house 12 Pokemon with max benefits. This house has a span of this entire white perimeter, which is huge. So anything in the house next to it, or if you're doing another cube, another 8x8 outdoor environment next to it, they will all benefit from it. When it comes to the tall grass, it's a much smaller area. However, it's still within this 8x8 interior 6x6 rectangle. So this patch of grass here will benefit from all of the goodies within this region, including these decorations on the wall. Using this, there are a whole bunch of environments that take up only 1 space or 2 spaces that you can just put those down, and if you really wanted to, you could spam so many Pokemon in so little of a space. And that'll get you until you're ready to start having Pokemon not appear for you if you're not a fan of them, in which case prefab houses are what's best for that, or a combination of the two. But I'm going to be covering that in a separate video. So if you found this information helpful, you may want to check out my entire playthrough series filled with tips and tricks like this. The playlist should be on screen now, as well as another video that the algorithm recommended that you should watch. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, Austin John out.
Man, they see me shining like I got the charm. Stay strapped, got that jet ball in my palm. Fell from the sky, guess I'm the chosen one. And if you need to know how, check out Austin John. Champion flow, yeah. I got that champion flow, yeah.